Hello and welcome to another video from Cotswold Fireworks talking about the FIreTEK firing system. This one is going to be about using Finale Fireworks, which is shown in the video, sorry, as you can see launched at the moment. Finale Fireworks, and building a script using Finale to work with one FIreTEK module. And I say one FIreTEK module because we've done a video about taking one 48E, the basic or the compact module that's sold by FIreTEK, and using that to do in the UK the equivalent of a £1,000 wedding. So it seems most likely that we'll take this video just to produce a script for that £1,000 wedding using just one module. So what we have on the screen, I'm hoping you can see the mouse, it is recording but we'll find out. We just have the one firing position that you get as standard when you first open up Finale, and we are going to use 4 firing positions. And if you've never used Finale before, you can right click on position and it brings up the edit, and we will just call position 1, we're going to change and call it the center position, and we'll save that, and pressing Ctrl L will create you a new position. As I said, we need 4, so we'll press Ctrl L again 3 more times until we get our positions, and we can stretch these out. So we'll take position 2 and stretch it out, and position 3 we'll stretch it out. That's quite a width at the moment. We are actually looking at the display from quite a long way away, so the magnifying glass over here, we're looking from, what's it, 285 meters, so if we drop that down to 100 meters and bring the positions in to something more manageable, 50 meters there and 50 meters on this side, 47, 48, 50, make sure that one is 50 as well, and the center one, so if center one, if we right click on this one we can rename that as left firing position, and we can right click and rename this one as the right firing position. I've left the numbers on there because the numbers is what we're going to identify the FIreTEK modules with. If you're using more than one FIreTEK module, then you would identify module 1, module 2, module 3 and module 4. In this case we're actually going to have one firing module with the 4 slats, so this will be slat number 3, and the left position is slat number 2, the center position is slat number 1, and this last position we're just going to put it off to the side a little bit, and this is going to be our slat number 4, and that will be shells as an idea. So there we go, center firing position. The shells position is actually going to be behind the center, further back. All I'm going to do is just drag it up a little bit and raise the position just so it's a bit more identifiable on the screen. That's the only reason for doing that. It's not because I'm going to lift the shells up higher, I'm just going to show it on the screen as being in a slightly different position, but the shells would be at the rear behind the center if you are viewing this from the bride and groom side. Just wet me whistle. Nice cup of coffee today, nice cup of coffee. Right, so that's the positions laid out. As we say, it's going to have one module in the middle, and we're going to run 20-meter cables to the left and to the right, and a 10-meter cable to the rear, and the center will just be a couple of meters from the actual module itself. What we need to do is tell Finale Fireworks what firing system we're using. So if I remember rightly, underneath show we have got set firing position system, and it's ticked, it already is set to FIreTEK. That's a good start, but we need to customize that setting, and it's the front option, FIreTEK slats 8. The old FIreTEK system, the very first one that was built in 2009, had 8 slats, which would give you 96 firings. The firing modules that are now sold, the compact module and the waterproof module, and which is the 48S and the new 48SF, which is 48 ports waterproof with DMX output, only has 4 slats. So the one edit that you need to do is to change that to 4. And that will just keep all the modules in line. The rest of the addressing, first pin address, number of pins per slat is 12 pins, or 12 ports as you say on the slat, all the same. Number of matches per pin, you're not going to fire 40 matches on a port in FIreTEK. There's no reason to, because of the way it works. I just leave that to say 10. Doesn't really matter, because I'm not going to put 10 fireworks onto one port, but it just, you can feel free to save it if you want to. Caliber, any size, no wasted pins, you can leave that the same. We're not going to worry about that, so we can save that. So we've now set the system up to be FIreTEK system with 4 slats. What we now need to do is give each firing position a slat. So we'll start with the center one, because that's going to be slat number 1. So right click on the center, add modules or slat, and we are going to add in module 1, because we're only using one module, slat number 1, and then first pin 1 to 12. That's fine, so that can be saved. If we go down to position number 2, right click edit, add a module or slat. The module number is going to stay the same, but this is going to be slat number 2, which should match the number 2 in the name. So number 2 slat going to number 2 firing position, or the left position. We can save that. Right position, right click, add slat module. In this case it's just a slat. I know it says modules a slat, we're just adding a slat. Delete that number, change it to a 3. So that says module 1 slat 3 ports 1 to 12. Save. And then finally on the shells we need to add a slat. This will be slat number 4 for module 1, and pins 1 to 12, blah blah blah. That's all the same, and we can save that. So there we go. We now have a single firing module from FIreTEK with 4 slats, each slat allocated to a different firing position, because we're going to run a 20-meter cable between these positions to join them all up together. As I say, this is just to show that you can do a £1,000 wedding, or the equivalent of, with one firing module with a script, using 4 slats in 4 positions. So, are we firing this one to music? No, let's not worry about music in a moment. It's very easy to do, but we'll leave the music off. FIreTEK Finale by default will start at the 10-second marker down here on the timeline. We're not really interested in that. We're going to start at the 2-second marker, so you can bring that down to there. It's about 2 seconds. There we go. I like to have a 2-second run in, just in case there are mistakes. I.e., you start the firing script, it starts playing, you've got 2 seconds just to settle down and have a think about what's happening. Sometimes the music will be starting. If you are doing a music show, the music may start before the fireworks. 2 seconds is enough time to know, this is the wrong music, or is this the right music, at which point you can abort the firing. You haven't fired any fireworks. It's worth having a run-in. It's useful. I notice that in America it's quite often to have a 60-second run-in before any music starts and before any fireworks start. Never seen that in England, but I'm sure it happens. We personally, in our company, start with a 2-second run-in or more. So 2 seconds will be our first firework on this show. And well, we'll search for some hearts, shall we? So all inventories, suit speciality. We've got some ring shells, no hearts, smiley faces. As I say, I'm going to use shells, so I'm going to copy the shell position. So the first firing is, we'll just have a nice blue and green smiley face. We just pop that in there, and that adds that firing on. And if I press a space bar, the time will go, and there's the smiley face starting. So we can go to some candles, and with reports, a lot of candles with reports on here, so we're going to shift across and have some 8-shot blue mine candles. Look quite nice. So just drag one to the left, and we normally have one at the same time happening on the right hand side as well. That's not the same candle, so we can delete that. What you can do is highlight this candle, Control C, copy, select the other firing position, Control V, paste, and you've got the same candle in 2 positions. And we like to cross our ones over, so we'll give it a 20-degree angle. There's 20 degree, and we now have two candles firing, a mine firing at 20 degrees. And as you can see on the timeline, that shows you that the end of the time is when the last of the fireworks fades out. The last firing of that 8-shot candle was at 9 seconds, is it? 9 seconds, but it still took a further 5 seconds odd for the whole of the candle to burn away, but which is quite useful to see. You can change this timeline in FIreTEK, in Finale. I get the two muddled up. First things first, I don't like the slim timeline. I like it to be bigger, so clicking this button will allow you to extend the width of the timeline to a lot bigger, and the very one on the very end allows you to change it from a short line with the bursting point, the launching point, the bursting point, and the burn time. I like to have it as a solid bar. You still have the white line to show the bursting point, which is way back there, and I'll just bring that back so it shows it as that position. So the lighting of the fuse was there, the bursting of the first part of the candle was there, and then the burn time. But I like this one because it shows the description of the fireworks in the bar, and also what position it is, left or right. We put a couple of Roman candles in. We need some cakes. So the center section, we're just going to put a fan cake, 200-shot time rain, to appear about there. In fact, the last of the candles are firing at that point, so we will drag that down to there so that we don't get too much of a dark space. And pressing space bar will allow you to show that going off and just dying out, and then we get into our super high, super fast fanned cake. They're normally quite expensive, so I'd only use one of those in a wedding like this, but in this case we've done a few. So cake, yeah, loads of those. 40-shot assorted cake is quite nice. Put one on the left, and oh, there we go, and put one on the right, so we got that going, and then we got something bursting over the top. And because this is a short one, we just don't want to go too madly. Hit the shell section, and oh, we got some 3 inches. So one purple, different color, multicolour 3 inches, and then change the caliber to 4 inches. We could stop. We've done the 3, so we've done 4 firings of 3 inches. We can go back to the timeline, find some nice kind of hanging willowy 3 inches red chrysanthemums. Chrysanthemums are nice. You'll do some chrysanthemums. Play that again, and we will put a couple of chrysanthemums over the top, all of the same colour, into that position. And then finally we can go back, and then we want a couple of 5 inches because we like 5s. So we'll just play that finale off. There we go. Bang, bang, bang. Where are your finales? Put some nice shells, shall we? Yeah, this is silver chimeras, that'll be nice. So go back again, play the last of the 4 inches, and about there, 2 silver chimeras. You notice from the timeline that the cake is still burning right to the end, and we'll just see when the last of that cake goes off is there. So what we'll do is we will rubber band and select all the shells and drag the shells so that they finish just as the cake finishes. And so what we do is actually we got 2 cakes going on. These are going to burn for around 40 seconds. Probably needs something up the middle, and you probably to be honest, we would get some 2.5-inch shells. Slide back, play, and do a couple of gold peonies in there as well. Now we've probably used more than 4 firings. If we have, I'll take some of those out to the shell section, because we've only got 12 firings. And here we go, here's the finale. A couple of 3s, 4s, 5, 2 6 inches to finish, which are just going there. Actually 2 5 inches to finish. There we are, end of display. 1 minute. It's a short display, but it'll give you an idea of what we can do. Now, File and Firing View, which is Control F, will allow you to scroll down and show what's going on the slats. So I'll just bring that up to about there. There's not very many firings, and at 0, 0 we have a green and blue smiley face. That's unusual. It shouldn't be firing at 0, 0. Right, with FIreTEK there is one thing that you must be aware of. You cannot hit you cannot fire a port at 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. You must have at least a 1/10 of a second delay. So what you can do is you can edit this directly, and we'll put a 2/10 of a second delay in there, and 20 milliseconds, is that right? That should be right. So 0 minutes, 0 seconds, and 2/10 of a second is there. It seems to have changed it to 271, which is wrong. Boom, 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 boom. Green and blue smileys because I selected the wrong thing there. Luckily we can do edit undo, which is ideal. So let's have a look at the center. I think we were starting with a 3-inch shell. Let's go back and highlight that one. So it was green and blue smiley at 3 inches. And we really want it to come in a bit, so we'll drag it in a bit. There. That's better. 0, 0, 18. That's a little bit over. It might be easier to do on the timeline as such. Like I say, you cannot start the launch at 0, 0. It also means that to get the smiley face to go off at 2 seconds, we really don't want any fireworks going off there. So what we'll do is, because I said we want a 2-second blank spot at the beginning, so let's drag all of that in so that the launch is at 2 seconds, gives us our 2 seconds of blank. Now if we press play, we will find there's our 2 seconds of blank, then there's the launch of this 3-inch shell, then there's the firing of the 3-inch shell with the firing of the candles underneath. That's a much better position to be in. As you can see, it changed that automatically in the firing script. Right, quickly looking at the addresses that we have here, and addresses, so like I say, it's all module 1, and we have module 3. Slat 3 is used a couple of times, only uses first 2 ports. Slat 2 only uses ports 1 and 2, that's correct. Slat 1, which is the middle section, we only put a couple of cakes on it, and what's happened is they've actually, let's see, they've actually dragged across into, they've dragged the 5-inch shells across into that one because we ran out at the shell position. Slat 4 was the shell position. We used all 12 ports on it, you can see them there. I don't know if I can highlight them like that. There we go. Used all 4 of them, or 12 of them. So what's happened is the 5-inch shells, the very last 5-inch shells, have been shifted across to an empty slat close by, which happens to be the one with the cakes on. And 5-inch tubes I tend to run singly, so I could actually rig the 2 5-inch tubes singly on their own closer to the middle slat and run a longer igniter lead in the slat. So as you see, the software automatically allocated those 2 5-inch shells to a slat because we ran out at the 4th position, which is good. That's one way of doing it, so happy with that. I'm not too worried. You still put the 5-inch shells at the position, but you're going to need to run 2 cables from slat 1, which is the center one, go into the back to fire those 2 shells. Slightly complicated because it means running 2 little cables, 2 little pieces of bell wire, but it can be done. So there's the script. The script will work. It's absolutely fine. It's in fact, why don't we just clear some stuff down? No, we'll leave it as that because we've got the gold pin. It makes for a nice little tiny 1-minute show. So finished with the firing area. We can now file. We ought to save it to disk because we haven't saved anything, just because we can. So here's where we've been saving all this to. One timecode, put it in timecode test, and we'll call it a test 1-min script. 1-minute script. There we go. Saved. And then of course finally we need to export the show as a finale generic CSV. So or in fact export it as a system script. So you go export firing system script and select the firing system you're using. Now, as I said before, you must make sure that you've already done the show and said that the type of firing system using, it was a FIreTEK, and then you customize it and you set it to slats 4. That's important that you have done that. After done that, you go File, Export, Firing System Script, and down to FIreTEK. Where are you? And it exports a script. Of course it does. That's brilliant news. We'll put it in the time, so we'll just call this script. Save. It's saved. Let's open a Windows window. Down to timecode and move it across, and we have a script. I'll open this script so you can see it. We're just going to edit with Notepad, so you can see that it is just a simple text file. And the first line is just so you can, if you would open this in Excel, it'll be nicely formatted in columns. But module 1 is the first column. That's interesting. It's switched to module 2 on that one, hasn't it? Module 2, slat 1, port 2. So it's automatically readjusted the script when it was programmed to use a second module, which we don't want to. So we're being a little bit complicated now because I've created more than one module, but we'll leave it for the minute. This is just to show you that the system works. The middle column is your slats. As you can see, we've got plenty of room on slats 1, 2 and 3 to actually put these two shells. These are the 5-inch shells at the end, and we'll make that adjustment in a moment. Actually, may as well make the adjustment. And then this final column here is the port numbers, and Finale outputs the time in thousandths of a second, so or in milliseconds if you want to call it like that. So it just gives you an idea of when the firing times are firing off. So 12,000 milliseconds is when port 1 fires, etc. So it's different different firing systems, or should we say different firing design software, can output in different levels. So let's say for example, ShowSim will output in hours, minutes, seconds, thousandths of a second. This outputs in total thousandths of a second. And Finale, FIreTEK system, firing system, will happily read both formats of script, regardless of what it is. So you just need to know that if you want to take an adjustment and say, oh yeah, actually I want to add an extra second to this firework that's changing at that's firing in port 9 on slat 4, which is going to be a shell, you can just come along here and change the 47 to a 48, and that has added 1 second to the shell lift time. But to the launch time, should I say? I'll put that back to was it 47? Put that back to a 47. We'll just not save. Just so those you know. But that script will work. So we have a script called script. So save, don't save. No need to save the adjustments. So while we're doing that, let us get a firing module, because let's face it, that's what we're here for. So you're now going to see coding up a firing module from scratch. We do not need Finale anymore. I'll leave it the fact that it's going to use 2 modules. It doesn't matter. It just means we're going to load the script into one firing module and leave the other one. But that's something to be aware of, is when you're adding lots and lots of shells, bearing in mind that we only had 12 ports to work with in the shell position before Finale decided to use some more. So what I'm just doing is opening up a FIreTEK, turning it on, plugging in the USB cable to the computer, and we'll minimize this software. We're going to load up the FIreTEK software, and the latest version, February this year, computer software, FIreTEK Show Designer, run. It maximizes out. I'm going to minimize this and bring it across so you can see the window. This is the default window, FIreTEK Show Designer. As I said, now you could design an entire show in FIreTEK Show Designer, and we will do this at a later date. All we are going to do is use it to program the firing box that we've got connected. So all you need to do is click on Test and Run, and a new window will open, which is this one. And first things first is Auto Detect Interface. It has found a module which happens to have a module ID of 3 because it's already been pre-programmed. So we finish searching, we need the one module. Up it comes. Here's your 4 slats of 48 ports. The P says it's programmed. B, there's the battery life showing you that it's got battery. There's no wireless or something because it's not talking to anything else. And what we will do is delete programming, and that has wiped the programming from the firing module. In this point you then import the project, select the project you want to import, which in our case is going to be inside, not the C drive, it was the D drive, timecode, a script. When you're importing, you get to see what the script looks like before you load it. So yes, we'll open that script. Project was successfully opened at 19 entries for 2 interfaces or 2 modules. We've only got one module. That's fine by us. We're only going to use one module. We're going to ignore module 2. Would you like to load an audio file for the project? No, we don't. It doesn't load an audio module file and then load that down to the module. It loads the audio file because you can play the script from this end, and I will show you that working in a moment. So the script has been imported. Send the project to the interfaces, or send the project to the module, and if we click on that, it should send it. Did it? It didn't. And here's our mistake. The mistake is that this module has ID 3, and the script that we're using is referencing module number 1. So it can't program it, of course, because the script says, well, I'm sending a script to module 1, but you've only got module 3 set up. So we'll close down this little program here, and we will turn off the firing module because we've cleared the program in it. You saw we did delete programming. This now means that when I turn the firing module back on, the first thing it's going to ask for is, what ID would you like the module to have? In this case, we're going to have ID 1 because it has no script. A module that has a script loaded will remember its ID. A module without a script will always ask you, what ID would you like? So on the screen it's saying, what ID would I like? I'll have ID 1 please. Press the green button. It has ID 1, and beep beep, it's now been recognized by the computer. Back into Test and Run. There we go. I'll just bring it onto the screen. Also detect the interface. I have found ID device number 1. Perfect. Finish searching. There we are. ID 1 on the module. Import the project. We are importing our script, which has in the first column module 1, which is one it wants to work with. Ignore the last 2. We've not plugged that module in yet. Open. 19 entries for 2 interfaces or modules. Okay. No, I would not like audio. Thank you. Now we can send the project to the interfaces, and you'll see how fast this is. Done. That's it. The module now has a green P. It has been programmed. If you were to look at the screen of the module in the right hand corner, it will show the ID 1 and it has a program on it, and the individual slats on the LCD screen will now show you what igniters is expecting to see on what ports, and it's telling me that they're all empty. Where's the igniter? Quite rightly, it's empty. Slat number 4 is full of igniters, and it's telling me that every port is empty. Quite right, it would be. So that's how simple it is to make a script for one module to fire 4 slats over 4 different positions, and now walk out onto show and set it up. This module is pre-programmed. I can now give it to one of my firers, give him the firing order and the printout of where he needs to put all the fireworks, send him out on a show, set it up, wire it all in, and from the module, turn the module on, arm the module, press play, and that module will fire a show without having to use wireless or a laptop or a trigger cable. He can, if he wants to, plug a trigger cable in, arm the system, press the trigger button, and then the system will fire in bits and pieces. You can, if you want, like we have here, have our We've loaded the firing system. So we have, let's say we take the laptop out. The laptop will give you the screen that you are seeing. We've loaded the project. The script is showing the thing. We can now arm it to put the password in. The default is 1234. Password inserted, and it has armed all the devices. You now have a green A to show that it is armed. If you look at the LCD screen on the module, which I'm doing right now, it is armed. I can now play, and when I play, it will start counting, and it will now fire those ports, and play is showing on the box, and we have 60 seconds of firing. You're not going to see anything on this screen, there's nothing to show. The module is just saying, yeah, I'm playing, and if you had igniters fitted, they would now start firing quite easily. I'm not going to show that on the video, there's no need. You can pause, and the module has paused, the fireworks have paused. You can play and it will carry on where it left off. You can pause again, do something else, and play where it left off. And if you stop, the system stopped, and it automatically disarmed as well by clicking stop, and the system has disarmed. Just to give you something else as well, if you arm the system, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, it is armed, all devices armed, we have an A on the bottom. You haven't hit play, but you now want to disarm the system. You go back to the arm button and click release, and it has now released the module. And it then reread the status of the module back in, and you saw the P come back to say it still has a script programmed. So there we go. That was using a laptop to fire an automated show, or don't even give the laptop out, just take the module out. But that was a very quick rundown, I mean extremely quick, of Finale Fireworks. Where is it? There we go, with a minute's worth of fireworks, and making a mistake of having too many shells, so Finale automatically added another module into position number 4. If we edit it, I wonder if it shows it up. There's a bit of a mistake. Finale has actually added the modules, but it hasn't added the slats into the 4. So one of the things to do is spend a bit of time and put all the slats you think you're going to use, all the modules you think you're going to use into Finale before you start dragging and dropping fireworks around, and also make sure you keep a count of how many fireworks you dragged into a position, because as you saw me there, I made a mistake and dragged 14 shells onto a position that only has 12 ports on a slat. But it's a very quick way, just showing you that this is how you use Finale, and it works. You know, it's very simple, very interactive, and yeah, you can produce some pretty good shows very quickly, doing what you want to do and just having a bit of fun. And if I just take that down to the minimum, that gives you a bit more height, and 60 seconds of a display, which to be honest isn't completely brilliant. It needs a little bit more going on. I certainly wouldn't sell that at £1,000, maybe 200 and a bit more, but the minimum we work with is £100 a minute, so and that's a real big minimum, so we like to £1,000 a minute would be brilliant, but it's very few and far between that we get displays of that size. But anyway, thank you very much for listening to my waffle. Hope I haven't bored you to death. That was Finale Fireworks with 1 FIreTEK firing module, 4 FIreTEK slats, a handful of shells, a couple of cakes, 2 candles in 60 seconds, and how to program the box very quickly. We must go into more depth on programming the boxes and working with longer scripts and more modules, but that's enough to give you an idea of what's going on. So yeah, cheers very much. Hope you're having a great evening, weekends, whatever you're doing, and good luck for November and the 4th of July's and everything else. This is Nick signing off of Cotswold Fireworks, showing off what Finale Fireworks and FIreTEK can do. Good night.